So let me just tell you something about podiums. So there's this thing about podiums that when you're a speaker, it's really tempting to like, hold on, right? And it's just boring when you're listening to somebody. So I was like, no, I don't want to use a podium. Anyway, so I just want to say I am super psyched to be here because I am home at LULAC. I grew up a LULAC child. My parents were very involved, and every Friday night, I was like in my teen years, they dragged me to the LULAC meeting at the local church, I don't even know. We'd play in the back, the kids and I. And then I was Miss LULAC. I was Miss LULAC in Norwalk, which is not too far from here. And I remember I was like 13, and I sat on this like convertible Mustang, and I'm like Miss LULAC, and I'm waving at people. So I'm at home here. This is my home. I'm so happy to be here. Juan Prano, got to thank him. He actually listened when I said, you know, our community needs to understand this AI stuff, and he got it. And so here we are. So really, let me just give you a snapshot of who I am, aside from a LULAC child. I grew up in Hawthorne. Anybody's familiar with LA? Not too far from here. And I ended up going to San Diego State. And then I just got to know people. I was very involved in the business school organization. It was called MABA, the Mexican American Business Association. And I became the president of that. And I got to know people who at the time from Washington, D.C. were visiting San Diego. And fast forward, I end up getting offered a job in Washington, D.C. I ended up spending 2 tours of duty there for 10 years. And I just share that because you just never know. You just never know. And I also just want to share, too, that I just finished, because I just started this nonprofit, really, hold your seats, like 30 years in corporate America, since right out of school. And I just want to say every job that I had was not posted, not one. It was all relationships. It was all relationships. I remember one time I got a job with Comcast, and I was in Sacramento, and I had been in D.C., and I could just see they weren't doing anything with the Latino community in D.C. And so I emailed the bigwigs in Philadelphia, hey, if you ever need anybody, blah, 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 I'm familiar with D.C. A year and a half later, they said, we need somebody, Susan, and you can write the job description. And then that took my career off into an entirely different career, because now I'm in telecom. I was on the policy side of things. I started in PR and communications, but now I was in policy. Then I wanted to move back to California, and a friend of a friend of a friend knew somebody at Facebook. This was a long time ago in the early days. And I was like, oh, it's so far from my house. I live in Marin, and they're in Menlo Park. But it was meant to be. It happened. And so I was at Facebook in the early days. And I was there for 5 years. That is where I learned about artificial intelligence. 10 years ago, over 10 years ago. This new technology was allowing the blind community to access the Facebook platform. And at the time, I thought, okay, if this could do that for one community, what is this going to do for others down the road? And so I took a leap of faith and quit. I quit Facebook because something was drawing me to this work, drawing me to help. Because I was working with the engineers a lot in policy, and I would say, so what you mean is. And so I began to train my brain to translate tech talk to ordinary people talk. And so, I just want to say every step along the way, God bless my parents and rest in peace, but our culture typically is not supportive or encouraging risk. Every time I go to my parents and say, well, I'm going to ask for a raise. Oh, are you sure? But you have such a good job. Or, you know what, I think I'm going to quit Facebook because I want to do this other thing. Oh, what? How can you quit? And so every time, and I really respected and loved my parents, but every time I had to go against the grain. So I just really want to plant that. It's not related to AI. That is just a general statement. Our culture is not necessarily encouraging of risk. So we have to sometimes go against the grain in order to advance. And we have to build these relationships. So if you think your career is going to be based on something posted on Indeed.com, it's not. It's going to happen because maybe you met somebody here. So keep that in mind. So artificial intelligence. How many people use generative AI? Okay. Is that a radio or what is that? Oh, a walkie-talkie? Okay, how many people interacted with AI first thing this morning? Okay, that's always a telltale. So, big picture, and I only have 5 slides of really important stuff, so we'll get to that. Everything you touch, basically, you're interacting with AI. The minute you pick up your device, you are interacting with predictive AI. We have been using AI for a long time. Why? Because of this. Because of our devices. That's why AI now has grown so much. Some people say, well, how come this is happening? Because of our devices. The food that AI requires is data. We are the data. It's not necessarily a bad thing, because think about when last time you were on Netflix. It's really convenient to be like, oh, yeah, I like rom-coms. Oh, what, there's another rom-com. Because it's learning from my behavior, and that's what AI does. Predictive AI. It learns from our behavior. So keep that in mind. So the answer should be, everyone should have raised their hand when I said, did you interact with AI first thing this morning? When you picked up your device. The minute you're clicking, you're interacting with AI. And you can pick any topic, anything today, health, transportation, fire management, medicine, anything. It is all based on the backbone of AI today. So why we're here is because we collectively cannot be left behind again. And so it's up to you all as the next generation to understand it. Today, by the time you leave, to me, success is for you to say, wow, I better explore this a little more, rather than just getting on ChatGPT and rewriting a paper for me. It's much more than that. But the goal is to understand it. Here's the reality. I think it's 57% of recruiters today are choosing people that have some understanding of AI. Doesn't mean you have to be a data scientist. But the goal is not going to happen today, but the goal is for you to be proficient in AI. So after today, I hope that you go home and you try out some different tools that we'll talk about. And so then, let's say for example, let's say one of your families owns a small business or a catering business or a cleaning service. Help them. Understand how to use AI to help whoever you know. So then you can put on your resume, proficient in generative AI, and these are the tools. That then will set you apart, because guess who's reviewing your resume? AI. It's not a person. Unless it's a teeny tiny little business, it's not a person anymore. So you need to play into the technology. And what I say consistently is, now is not the time to keep your heads in the sand. And to be using a ChatGPT once in a while you do not know AI. So that's what we'll talk about. So, let me go back, by the way. This is my website, ainew.org. So I left Facebook 6 years ago to launch a nonprofit to educate people about artificial intelligence. 6 years ago, frankly, nobody was talking about it. It was the most difficult thing I've ever done. I was like, what was I thinking? But something kept telling me, every time I would doubt myself, Amazon would fund. Or Microsoft said, hey, we'll give you some money. Or, it was like a higher being was like, keep going, Susan, keep moving forward. So on my website, you will find easy to understand in English and Spanish content. Everything from what is an algorithm to AI in educators, AI in students, AI in small businesses, if you have small businesses. The goal is to raise your comfort level, so then you'll pursue more. There are a lot currently, it's all under AI literacy. That's what we're here to talk about. AI literacy, understanding the basics. It's like when you start school, you don't start with Calculus 2 or Algebra 3. You start with Math 101. We, as a world, not even as the United States, we are at Math 101 with artificial intelligence, including policymakers, including people in Washington, D.C. We're all in this together, and globally, I had UNESCO, if you've heard of UNESCO, it's under the UN from Paris, asking me to pen a piece. If you Google UNESCO, UNESCO, and my name, you'll see it. For the global audience to understand AI literacy. This was a year ago. But follow us. If you go to the website, you'll see all of our links to our social media. What I do on social media is I post educational content, like 45 seconds. So yesterday, I live in the Bay Area, and I had the San Francisco Bridge behind me, and I said, okay, so if you're like one of these people that drive across a bridge to a big city every day, and you have a repetitive skills job, you're at risk. Here's what you need to know. Click below. So follow. I get feedback that people are like, oh God, or I'll say, you want to know how to plan your wedding? Here's how you use AI. You want to run your small business? Here are some tips. So that's the website. Okay. So here's, we talked a bit about predictive AI. So if you think about sort of like a continuum of the development of AI, predictive AI we have had, and we use it every day, all day. Then you have generative AI, which we mentioned ChatGPT. The difference is, and this is how I describe it, generative AI generates a response for you. The key is the prompt, which is the question. So you could go to chatgpt.com, you could go to googlegemini.com, perplexity.com. There are many generative AI tools, well, not many, I would say the top, probably 7. Whatever your need is, you could say, I'm a college student, I'm working on a report, what's the best generative AI tool for me? Or I'm a small business owner, what's the best generative AI tool? That's where we are today. We are in the thick of generative AI. And this is what you need to understand. So for example, for students, one rule, never ever forget this. If it matters, do not cut and paste. If it matters, do not cut and paste. Because what's happening is that instructors, professors, and teachers, they now are becoming more attuned to the terms that generative AI would typically use. So let's say you're like, oh, I have to do a report on World War II, and I'm just going to crank it out on Gen AI. Well, now there are tools, AI tools, that the teachers can use to determine whether it was created by Gen AI. So keep in mind, Gen AI is a tool, not a crutch. It's a tool to give you ideas. So what I do is, I was looking up something about women and how many women are accessing, or how many women use the internet globally. I went to ChatGPT, I went to Google Gemini, then I went to Google Search. Because Google Search gives me a lot of articles. So always cross-reference your information, and then add your own flair. But it's just a tool. Remember that. Now, agentic AI. Has anybody heard about AI agents? Okay, it's new. So if you look, really, I should have done that on a continuum, across the way, across the line. So you have predictive, generative, now you have AI agents, and that's where we are today. So you know a chatbot, which is what all these things are, I call it like it's chattering with a robot. That's where they came up with that name, chatbot. So you know, like if you go to let's call it Home Depot, and you're having an issue, and it says, click here, and you can chatbot with their virtual assistant. It's a picture of a human, but it's really not a human, it's AI. That's a chatbot that can go one back and forth. I just did it yesterday. I did not receive the pebbles that I ordered 3 weeks ago. The chatbot, we went back and forth. I was going back for the chatbot. At some point, it couldn't help me because the delivery never happened. So it said, please hold, I'll give you a representative. So that's kind of like a one-way chatbot. AI agents can reason. So if you're a small business and you employ AI agent technology, so let's say I call to make a reservation for 4 outdoors, done. But if I added an AI agent to my restaurant, the AI agent could reply, you've requested a table outside for 4, but the weather forecast says it's going to be raining that night. We'll need to seat you inside. So you see what I mean? It's very different. It's reasoning. There are AI agent tools that are coming out. So rather than just going to Instagram, you could go to a Gen AI tool and say, I'm having a party for 10, I want organic food, and I want to make an Italian meal. Well, not only will it give you a list of things to do for your party, it will shop It will go and shop on Instagram and then take you to the Instagram basket. So I'm illustrating these things, that these are the things that are happening, and you can imagine how quickly things are moving. But these are things that right now you might be like, oh, it's kind of boring. I'm not really sure if it matters to me. Well, trust me, it does. Every single job, everything you are going to go for is going to be impacted by AI, and it is already. People in repetitive skills jobs, does anybody know an admin assistant, a paralegal, a translator? Does anybody know a customer service person, a cashier? All of those jobs are either they're likely going to be lost because they can be automated, or they're going to be directly impacted some way or another. And that is a fact. Duolingo, if anybody familiar with Duolingo, they laid off a bunch of people, translators, because they're replaced by AI. So this is real for you guys. I'm telling you, this is real. Please do not blow this off. Please explore it. Please understand it and get to a place where you can say that you are proficient in AI. Because here's the reason, the bar is low because not many people can say that today. Okay, so it's AI agents. The next thing it's called AGI, Artificial General Intelligence. That's where we're heading. It's already starting. That is where the caregiver of our elderly parent is a robot. That is where, the people taking care, there's nurses. There's not even it's not just dispensary, there are robot nurses. That's called AGI. So what people are saying today is that agentic AI or AI agents are the first step to AGI. That's how quickly this is moving, you guys. Very, very, very quickly. So we can't be left behind. I'm going to stop there. Any questions? Stop me along the way. I really want this to be interactive. Yes?
So, my name is Rafael Jimenez. I'm from the Texas A&M Council. So I'm the CEO of a startup that's working in empowering robotics, specifically in the medical sector, with AI. And I've been all over the AI game the past few years. I wanted to ask, how far do you realistically think we are from AGI? Because what I've been seeing, the agents are still, a lot of work needs to be done. I've been seeing predictions that in the next 20 years we'll get to AGI. Some have said 50, some have said 10. Where do you think we actually are, though?
I think we're closer than we think. The reason is it's a race right now. It's a race to AGI. And nobody, Google, OpenAI, Microsoft, nobody wants to be the loser. And
winning the race, then, if you don't mind me asking?
that no one knows because everybody, everybody says different things. But it's coming, I think, sooner than we thought. I mean, who would have ever thought that we are where we are today? Yes.
So I'm Caroline Sanchez-Crozier. I'm in Chicago, Illinois, and I've been part of LULAC for 37 years, and even before that as a high school student where LULAC helped me. So today, fast forward, I am the chair for innovation and technology for LULAC National. And so my question to you and to everyone is, okay, it's one thing to do what you're suggesting as an individual, and as we should, but another is how do we organize and generate these movements that LULAC has been doing for 90-some years, but in this space. I don't see it happening. I see that all of us should not only come to the sessions, go back and take something back to our own community, with our councils, with universities. That's what I'm doing in Illinois, and I would love to do this together across the country.
Yes, that's a great question. So at AINU.org, what we do is we launch suites of content. As I mentioned, AI and small businesses, AI and educators. August 29th, we are launching AI and nonprofits to help people understand. So this is a 3-minute explainer video. It's Q&A, it's resources, it's a glossary. And so what's interesting about the content that's coming up, we are creating it with AI. This is the first. We're creating all the images with AI. So to your point, AI and nonprofits is huge, particularly because a lot of nonprofits are losing a lot of funding right now. So we are, check back, mark your calendars, come September 1, August 29th, because I'll be on the news talking about it, it will be launched. And that will give you an idea on how to leverage these tools for organizing or for nonprofit fundraising and all the above. But it's a huge thing because especially the timing with funding. Yes?
My name is Juan Rayo. I go to Trinity College in Connecticut. So I actually have two questions, and I'm curious. How do you think AI is going to, well, as someone who's interested in going, I mean, I haven't even finished my bachelor's, but I'm interested to go into law. I am curious about in what ways is AI going to affect the legal profession? And my second question, I also am a big fan of like vote canvassing and voting and elections. How is AI going to affect U.S. elections, do you think, in the next coming years?
Well, the law, the world of law, seriously is going to be impacted. Paralegals, they're probably going to be replaced. Because if you think about it, it's a repetitive skill. They're cranking out pretty much the same thing often. It's like a cut and paste. Lawyers, there was an incident when ChatGPT first came out that a lawyer used it and he took this information to court, and it turns out it looked real, and it turns out none of it was real, and even the lawyer thought it was real. So there's a lot of sensitivity with attorneys and AI, and they poo-poo it. But again, it's a resource. So my nephew is an attorney, and he just says, this saved me like 50% of the time. He goes, I go back to my office, and I'm just like looking up everything on AI. I use it, I do my own thing, and then boom. So that's what it's really doing for lawyers today. But aside from the actual attorneys, everybody else is likely going to be very affected in law firms because they're repetitive skills. Yes, I guess you can come to the microphone. That's why they brought him up if you'd like.
No, I'll stand.
Okay.
My name is Carolina Ruiz. I'm a doctoral student at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and I work in health behavior. But as part of my research, I have been using AI, and I took the extra step of training my own GPT. And my two questions. First of all, I just want to get your general take on hallucinations that AI has and how to deal with that problem. And then second of all, do you think we'll ever get to the point where it'll really be like a personal assistant? Because I do feel like it has, you have to take that next step of sitting there for hours with your GPT going through exercises, and there's really no clear guidance on how to do that, because I think otherwise AI is not really making our lives more efficient, but it's just replacing the work we do. Because if I'm spending the same amount of time cross-checking, validating that these things that AI is producing are not hallucinations in my work, then it's not really saving me time. It's just changing the nature of the work.
Right. So thank you for mentioning that. Hallucinations are when it gets it wrong. So keep in mind that these AI tools, there's somebody that wrote the algorithm. The algorithm is the recipe that makes it work. If they're mostly white men, because it's true, I mean, it's just true, it's going to come from that lens. And that's where algorithmic bias, you may have heard that, comes in. And that's where bias comes in when you're using generative AI tools. So again, it's a tool, but not a crutch. Hallucinations are when it just gets it wrong. I mean, I put in, just to test it, like a year or so ago, when was a Mona Lisa painted? It got it wrong. Which is why do not cut and paste. You always have to cross-reference. Like when I was talking about women and voting or using the internet around the world, I use 3 sources. So yes, it's not as simple as it sounds. Or even today for the creatives in the room, it's like, oh, there's great tools, you can create all, and it's true, but I've been doing this the last 2 weeks. I'm like, it's not as easy as it sounds. So I was creating an image, for this video, the nonprofit video, and I said, create an image of 8 adults working on their devices in a coffee shop or in like a Starbucks. Well, it didn't come out right the first time. And then I did it again, and then it just crashed. Then it went back to the first image. So it's new. That's the challenge. Yes, I do have, yes. You can come up to the microphone so everybody can hear you.
Hi, my name is Ismael Cardenas. I go to Long Beach City College, full-time student, full-time worker. I work at a firm, so I know how you said that soon, it's going to be kind of obsolete to have paralegals and assistants like that. Do you think it's worth investing time into learning how to use it until that comes?
Absolutely.
You think I should? Yeah. what would you recommend to start off specifically? One simple thing, at least, as somebody that's barely beginning to know anything about ChatGPT or AI.
Right. Well, play with it. So for example, let's say you might want to, let's say you had a dream of visiting Africa. Get a prompt on, here's what I'm gonna show you. This is the most important thing. Take a picture of that. This is the most important thing to remember. This is how you effectively use generative AI. So the more specific the question, the prompt, the more specific the answer. So let's say it was this Africa trip. So I would say, help me with creating a 7-day itinerary to Africa for a single person, age X. Act as a travel agent, and the output should be a one-pager with 5 bullets. You should know that I have allergies to whatever, and here are some other things you should know. I do not like buses, I prefer trains. You see what I mean? This is how you effectively use generative AI. And this is directly from Google Gemini team. So there's a difference between I know how to use generative AI with I know how to use it effectively. So just yesterday, what was I was coming to, and I said, act as a concierge and recommend the best steakhouse near Long Beach Convention Center. See what I mean? It's very different from going to Google or Yelp and saying, where's the restaurant? I'm right over here. Oh, you're this. Let me ask this guy. He hasn't asked a question yet. Yes.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
My name is Lucas Caldames. I am a recent graduate from Gordon College in Massachusetts, and I am residing in Boston. Just bear with me on this one. When I think of AI and how advanced it's going, the first things that come to mind are movies like The Terminator and
Yes.
Avengers: Age of Ultron. And I know those are Hollywood, and Hollywood has to make money somehow here, but are we, the way it's going, will that be a real threat and possibility where AI will just be like, I have amassed so much data, I don't need humans anymore. Let's just get rid of them because they're the ones seem to be causing the problems. Again, this is just.
Yeah. Well, it depends who you ask. I mean, my news feed, because I live and breathe this every day all day, is 99% AI. And there are conversations with Bill Gates, for example, who is saying just that. We may be getting there sooner than we think. So nobody knows. This train is moving so quickly right now, you guys, nobody can know. Even, like I said, I started this 6 years ago. Nobody was talking about AI, let alone AI literacy. Well, now everybody's talking about AI literacy because everyone's like, oh my gosh, this is happening, and I need to understand it. Yes.
Hello, my name is Jose Cugres. I am a student at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. I'm curious to hear about, from an environmental justice lens, the impact of artificial intelligence. We've heard about communities who have been, facing a lot of air pollution because of some AI plants. So what guardrails should policymakers be putting in place?
Right.
How do we mitigate that impact, and how do we make sure that the communities who are the most vulnerable aren't the ones, continuing the usage of AI to perpetrate their own oppression?
Right. So a data center, just for background, a data center, imagine a building probably 10 times bigger than this, and it is just filled with these massive servers. You've probably seen them in some videos, these big black, Well, every time we click, this information has to be processed somewhere. So it's going through the servers in the data centers. The data centers need to keep those servers air conditioned. They need to stay cool, which requires power. The more AI we're using, the more data centers, the more power, the more impact on climate change. And so that's just a reality. Now, to your point about policymakers, the thing about AI is it's not regulated. So right now, it's the wild, wild west. So someone asked about the elections, by the way, and I didn't answer that. The elections will and have been hugely impacted because of deep fakes. So 2 years ago before the election, I hired a college family member, and he's in computer science. I said, create a deep fake for me. Do something wild. This is pre-election. I said, create a video where President Biden is supporting the NRA, and Trump is supporting the right to choose. Something wild that would never happen. It only took him 8 hours to create a deep fake video of that. The most problematic of it was the hair. So the point is what happened in this last election, there were a lot of deep fakes happening, but because there's no regulation, nobody's required to what it's called, I'm drawing a blank, but where it says AI generated on the bottom. No one's required to do that. It's a wild, wild west. I could do something terrible, there are no repercussions, unless California does something. So, I'm from California, but DC is not going to happen. Definitely not going to happen now. Because first of all, most policymakers don't understand it. That's the number one issue. But the other is lobbying. And look, I come from tech. Tech supports this work, but it's just a fact of, you take anything, the dairy industry, if they don't like something, they're not going to let it pass. I mean, it's just how this United States works. So, yes.
Hi, my name is Christian Ramos from Virginia, at least coming from Virginia. That's kind of choking my neck. But essentially, to stay on topic a little bit, we talked about, well, firstly, thank you for all the work you've done with AI. But we're not just seeing the air pollution, we're also seeing a lot of water be used up.
Yep.
And land is being lost. We have a lot of lobbyists from corporations coming to lobby to local governments, claiming a boost in economy for local governments, and they're giving away our land, our housing markets to have these data centers.
Yep.
I come from Virginia, and 70%.
Oh, Virginia's a big state.
Runs through
Yeah.
Virginia, Northern Virginia, and Ashburn, Loudoun County.
Yep.
Those data centers, you can drive by them, and it's ridiculous. So, do you have any insight into the policymaking, lobbying, or what these corporations are using to win over these local governments that are just handing away the keys to the land that a lot of us need back? I'm sorry.
No. I mean, I get it, but you're right. So a friend of mine is in data center business, so I know a lot about it by coincidence. And you're right. You need land, and there is not much land to build these massive, massive data centers that require power and water and air conditioning. So what's happening is this happening a lot in Virginia, a lot in the Midwest. My former employer, which is now Meta, Mark came out like 2 weeks ago just saying that, they're going to build a super intelligent AI and how much they're investing in data centers. So the local government affairs people are running around, understandably, getting permission to build. But this is how it always goes, whether it comes to fruition or not, to your point. We're going to build these, it's going to make you money, we're going to create jobs, we're going to help the local community. And typically, local communities are strapped for funds. It's a fact. That's how it happens. It just does. People don't really want to talk about that piece, but I think that's something that maybe, LULAC could take upon, is as a platform of speaking up. Like, someone do a study. Where are these data centers going, to your point? Are they going into our communities? Are they going right next door to our communities? Probably. Yeah, yes. Can someone keep time? I don't know what time it is. Oh, we're almost done, okay.
Hi, Rafael Jimenez again.
Yes.
So basically, this might be a bit of a complex question, so tell me if it is. But long story short, so ChatGPT 5 just released this morning.
Yeah.
And Anthropic put out their new Claude Code recently. Every time we see a new AI get released, we hear about all these different test benchmarks, like humanities last exam, they scored 3% more. My question for you is, every time we see these benchmarks, we see things like it's now less cents per compute, meaning we hypothetically don't need as big data centers. Obviously, they're going to keep building and all that. When we see these test benchmarks, all these really nice graphs from Anthropic, Meta, anyone, how can we prevent ourselves from getting lost in the hype behind these benchmarks and believing that we're suddenly getting this amazing new tool when, we're having a bunch of environmental damage done? Because I love AI. I think AI is great, but I also need to recognize, no matter how good the prompt, still going to take a lot of server compute, you know. How can we prevent ourselves from getting lost in all that hype and all these test benchmarks and all that?
I don't have an answer to that. It's like we know water bottles are bad,
Keep using
but
it
we keep
anyways.
using them.
Yeah.
Right? And AI is different in the sense that it's unlike social media, by the way. Social media, you could choose to participate or not. I just got back from Costa Rica. Every step of the way, it was facial recognition. I have global entry. It was frightening and beautiful how quickly I got through there. It was like, boom, my eyes, next. So, right? What are you gonna, there's no putting this genie back in the bottle. But the point is to not be left behind. That's the point. I don't even remember what my next slide was. Oh yeah, okay. Anyway, before we forget, and I should have made a slide of this, here are some, so we talked about ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Anthropic Claude. So you can go to claude.ai. And as I mentioned, I know there's Microsoft Copilot and there's Perplexity. Those are the 5 that you could easily explore. They're all known, and you'll see if you go to my website into the generative AI video where I talk about the differences between them. Some are good for writing, another one's good for images, you know, another one's good for conversation. By the way, we just launched some information on AI and therapy. A lot of people are starting to use AI for therapy. Okay, in order to have a therapy session, you need to disclose a lot of really personal information. Okay, just remember, it's not just going away. So like whatever information you input, it's there. And again, because it's not regulated, we don't know what happens to it. And I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer at all. It's just my role, because I'm not from a tech company, is to share the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because you all need to know, we all need to know. So here are some pros and cons. I was talking about ease of use, it can be a personal assistant. Oh, it does work you don't need to do anymore. So you know what someone said, I thought it was a great idea, that they work with Excel sheets and all kinds of Excel sheets, and they were tired of it. So what they did was they cut and pasted like 10 Excel sheets and said, summarize to one sheet. Boom. That's convenient. And then the cons we talked about, hallucinations, the data, and then your privacy. We talked about generative AI, and here we are at the Q&A. I just want to make sure I covered everything. So we're at time, but thanks, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to be here. I mean, you were here to learn. That's a first step. Visit aianu.org. It's kind of like the kiddie pool, and then you can go dive in. You can go. Now, what's happened in the last 9 months is companies now have launched their own AI literacy programs. So it's on their own products, granted. But still, OpenAI has OpenAI Academy. Google has AI Essentials. Just look it up. And you could take it. I would say start at aianu.org. It's all free. And then take it from there. But thank you so much for your time.